Sorry.
Go for it.
Okay, testing, testing. Today on Quality Time with Family Ties, we learn Revolver. This episode should have been called Goddamned Revolver.
Hey everybody, welcome to Quality Time with Family Ties. I am one of your hosts, Scott Jones. Joining me from our research department, Mr. Paul Packler.
Hello, 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 hello.
How are you, Paul?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. I appreciate that. And Mr. Corey Pepper.
Hi, how are you, Paul? I'm going to ignore Scott. We asked him last week how he was. So this week
I've been better, but I appreciate you asking, and I appreciate you not asking, Scott.
And Paul, I appreciate you asking me, and Corey, I don't appreciate you not asking me.
Scott, I appreciate your appreciation.
And I appreciate that, Paul.
Well, I appreciate both of you, and everything that we're doing is all filled with appreciation.
Awesome.
I feel like these appreciations are depreciating.
And we can't appreciate them quite as much.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guys, we are on Season 1, Episode 10, the title being Have Gun Will Unravel. That's right, we're talking about guns. Guns, guys.
We're back
Lock
to another
and
one of the
load.
big issue shows.
It must have been exhausting.
Yep.
To work for the network, to work at NBC and be like, oh, Gary David, we have a new meeting with Gary David Goldberg. He wants to talk about guns in this week's episode.
Mm-hmm.
Can't Alex just fuck some girl?
Exactly. Absolutely.
Please.
Every week it's another big issue with this guy. What is with him?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Next week it's going to be human trafficking, I think.
They were so happy when Friends was invented. They were like, this is karmic retribution for Gary David Goldberg.
Well, we're going to talk about the opening to this, and we're going to give it to Paul a little bit here, because there are two things Paul loves in life.
Mm-hmm.
He loves Family Ties, but probably more than that, Paul is an enormous Beatles fan, a huge Beatles fan.
And if you go on my Twitter account, you'll see I'm an award-winning Beatles trivia expert.
He's an expert, folks.
Can you tell us, expert in the Beatles, Paul Packler, can you tell us what year did Hard Day's Night open?
What year?
Yes.
1964.
So, how are they coming back from a movie theater playing Hard Day's Night in 1982?
Well, this is the same thing where remember they went to see what was that terrible movie, Endless Love, a year later after it had always. I would argue that A Hard Day's Night makes more sense because it could have been like a classic theater, whereas
Absolutely.
a shitty movie that got panned the year before somehow stuck around like Star Wars.
This is more likely than that, so I will give it that. That maybe they were specifically taking them to see a Beatles movie in a revival house.
Totally, like a Chaplin festival or something. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
And this is a cold open, by the way. They're back to doing a cold open.
Yes, this was the first one since the pilot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one of the early episodes. And so they're coming back from A Hard Day's Night. All the kids hated A Hard Day's Night.
How did that make you feel, Paul? How did that make you feel?
When it turns out that the Keatons had been robbed, I couldn't be happier. I was like, that's instant karma getting you, bitch.
That's why you get it for thinking that A Hard Day's Night was boring.
Yep.
The rage. I'm like, there are nail marks in my thighs right now because I'm so angry. That movie is pure joy. I don't know if any of you listening have not seen A Hard Day's Night. I defy you to not enjoy this film. It's
very enjoyable. It is.
This is the Richard Lester film?
Yes. It was written by Alan Owen, a Welsh playwright, directed by Richard Lester, who did The Goons with Peter Sellers. What else? He did
Oliver.
He did Oliver. He did Superman 2. People enjoy, or it's debatable if he did well by that film or not. But
this is a major director, a major British director.
Yes. Yes, it won an. It was awarded or was nominated for Best Script in as an Oscar contender.
Really? Hard Day's
Yeah,
Night was up for the Oscar for Best Screenplay?
yeah.
Wow.
Crazy. That's crazy.
And it was just it's like the first music videos were in this, where it's like all of their songs are being played.
Yeah.
It's a day, and yeah. Oh my God, these fucking kids, those kids.
That was boring, Mommy and Daddy. That was boring.
If they don't smash their
They're
guitars, how do we know if it's good or if the song's over?
A Hard Day's Night, Can't Buy Me Love, If I Fell, I Should Have Known Better. These are the songs in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Anyway.
I just knew watching that Paul was slowly going insane.
I couldn't.
Yep. So so Elise goes in. We see Elise leave to go into the living room, and all of a sudden she screams for Steven to come in, and they have been robbed.
They've been robbed by the Tasmanian Devil.
Well,
yes.
Not just robbed, ransacked, and apparently they took like a penknife and they going through the couch. The stuffings on the couch was all over the place.
Yeah.
Like they're hiding money in their cushions.
Yeah. And what I'd like to point out is we find out that upstairs they've been robbed, and all the bedrooms they've been robbed, the dining room, but that kitchen was spotless.
Left it alone completely.
They left the kitchen alone. But I bet they stole the orange juice.
Oh.
You know, you're right.
I
don't have it written down. I usually write orange juice, grapefruit juice.
Me too.
Because that's all they drink is orange and grapefruit juice.
I got it right here. Yep.
That, you know what, that is a thief after my own heart, where they would like dick them around and be like, they come into the kitchen, everything's fine, but then when they come into the next room, they'll see.
Oh, well, here's what I thought was weird. It's like they steal all this stuff of value, and they steal Mallory's diary. So not only are we dealing with robbers, we're dealing with a bunch of perverts too.
Yep. I want the diary of the 16-year-old girl. She's cute.
No, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like it might have been Skippy.
You know what?
I mean, when your house gets robbed, it's usually either by someone, you know, like a drug addict of some kind, someone who needs money or a quick whatever. But if you're going to steal a diary, there has to be a personal connection to the victim.
Yeah.
Why take the diary? That made no sense. We got the silverware and we got the diary. We're all right.
And I think, Paul, you're onto something, because Skippy isn't operating on all brain cells right now. He's on edge. Like, he's going to do something crazy one day.
Yeah.
So, I think you're onto something with that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the cold opening, though. Like, that is them getting robbed and Jennifer wanting to be tied up in the chair to show the show and tell at school.
Show and tell, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the height of hubris, and then it's Greek and it's tragedy and it's the way that it goes down, where they are like on cloud nine and they're saying, you know, fuck the Beatles, and then they are brought low by the hand of God. And then we go to the opening credits. And then let me say this about the opening credits. We're on episode 10, and this is the last time that we're going to be serenaded by Dennis Stefano and Mindy Sterling.
I know, it's sad.
I know.
Yeah.
We don't know why they had to get Johnny Mathis. We only have speculations, but because it was perfectly fine the way it was.
Maybe they're trying to get a single out of it or something. Maybe they thought they could sell it as a single.
That's a good idea. That's
a little bit too much syncopation for my liking. Now that I've heard it 10 times in a row, they're like, "What will we do, baby?" And just like, all right, calm it down. Just let it flow. We're singing a love song here. We're not doing I don't know, what is that? Some sort of aria or something.
Can you feel it a little bit more? Just let it kind of come naturally to you. Don't feel like you have to hit the what will we do, all right? We're not really asking, we're just kind of feeling it. So yeah, we'll miss you guys, and I guess we'll be looking forward to Diane Warren and Johnny Mathis next week.
Denise Williams.
Mm-hmm. Denise Williams. Sorry.
Just John Travolta that shit.
Adele Nazim
Yes.
will be singing the Family Ties theme song.
From now on, I will only refer to her as Diane Warren.
Diane Warren, who wrote the theme song to Armageddon. So
Oh, is that what she did? Okay.
that's what she did.
She did.
Yep.
Yeah, she did.
She did.
I was hoping she wasn't a real person.
No, she's been nominated for Oscars a few times.
She's like,
Okay.
yeah, a huge
Big
writer,
songwriter.
big songwriter. Yeah. And we come back, and the family is living in fear, like Scooby-Doo kind of fear. They all seem like a bunch of shaggies. Like the way Steven enters the kitchen, we see his hand first, and then like peeping into the window.
Mm-hmm.
And they all kind of creep in. They're all scared. Like they have Alex go in and charge into the living room. Like go and check it, Alex. And he's like, ah! It's crazy.
Yeah.
They're living in fear, and so they have a family meeting.
Right. They get the ladle as the conch shell, and they.
Yeah.
Oh man! Holy! Stop the presses! Stop the presses! Corey Pepper, for those of you listening, props like a modern day.
Corey has a ladle with him right now that he's banging.
I call this meeting to order.
Okay, Corey, can you? Who's going over the minutes right now?
Oh, and that's the other thing. Here we're at a family meeting. Who takes minutes at a family meeting?
It is a meeting. Not they're not messing around. This is a family meeting where the minutes have been recorded. When they only really need to discuss one thing.
Right.
How do we protect ourselves?
Right.
To wit, I like Elisa's suggestions of the things that they should do. They should keep their doors locked, don't let strangers in, and call the police if they see someone suspicious. Does that really need to be stated? Shouldn't those are things they should be doing? If they hadn't been doing those things, they probably wouldn't have been robbed.
Well, I mean, let me say this: when did it? Because I mean, like parents, my parents' age and stuff like that, they're always carping about how they didn't have to lock their doors at a certain point during their childhood. When did that stop? Was that like a late '60s, '70s thing when people were like, "Oh, we have to lock the doors"?
I think so. I think it was late '60s, early '70s. Where Susanna grew up on Cape Cod, they still don't lock their doors.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they don't have to. Yeah, there's just.
Who's going to rob you? The Kennedys? Are they going to come over and be like, "Off"? We're going to take you on idle.
There's no crime.
Yeah.
Can you imagine living either where we live in Los Angeles or where you live in New York and not locking a door? It's crazy.
No.
Oh,
God, no.
absolutely.
I remember. I mean, yeah, but I think you're right. It's late '60s, early '70s when it started. Because I don't remember a time when my family didn't lock their door, and we lived in like a nice, suburban area, and we still locked our door.
Exactly. Yeah. Is this also the scene where they talk about that Elise had been frisking the paper boy?
Yes.
Yes.
And I was like, when Uncle Arthur does it, it's a problem.
But you frisking a 12-year-old, that's not a problem, huh, Elise?
And I think they do a quick cut to Steven. Not to do like a punchline, but they do cut to Steven.
He was new on the route, Paul. He was new on the route.
Oh, he's new. He's new meat.
And this is also the meeting in which they discuss the fact that next-door neighbor, Marty Olbeck, has been watching Mallory.
Yes!
From Back to the Future foreshadowing.
Marty Olbeck.
Yeah.
But once again, Mallory kind of being sexually harassed. Like, this poor girl.
Like, they all know Marty Olbeck, and they know that he's doing it, and they're not doing it.
Nothing about it. It's all right.
Nothing.
Marty Olbeck's harmless. Let him peek at
Let
you
him
through
peek.
the windows.
He won't do anything. But they come up with the idea that they should have a neighborhood watch meeting and bring in a policeman.
Right.
And so, once again, we cut to the neighborhood watch meeting, and we're revisited by the Brooklyn side of Columbus, Ohio, a nice Brooklyn policeman who's just like,
Yeah.
if a burglar wants to break in, there's nothing much you can do. Just try to lock your doors and keep wits about you.
Remember
Yeah.
that cop was the biggest buzzkill I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Oh my God! He's like, you're pretty much, you're all screwed. I'm sorry. There's nothing we can do about it.
He had no advice for anybody.
Nothing. He wasn't helpful at all.
But you know who did? Who did?
Mhm.
Oh, Mr. Earl Quigley.
Whew.
Earl Quigley and his GUN.
He's an insurance salesman, right? But
Mhm.
everyone seems to hate him, and
Yes.
he acts the shit out of it. It's like
Oh.
they had him do, like he had an animal that Earl Quigley was, and then he was like using that physicality, like he was being some sort of panther, and so he was just like, I'm Earl Quigley, and I'm going to tell you about how dangerous this neighborhood is. It was just like, oh my God, Earl Quigley, I'll follow you to the ends of the earth.
Yes, this actor had a hell of a backstory for this under 5 character. Like,
Now,
he
you
wrote down.
you guys know who this actor is, right? Jack Riley?
I know he was the voice of Stu Pickles on Rugrats.
He certainly was, and he was a regular, and the sort of the head regular crazy on the original Bob Newhart show when he was a shrink, and he had a group therapy group. Jack Riley was a regular for the entire run of the show.
Oh,
And
wow.
Sort of an improv comic, and still around, still making appearances. Just one of those great character actors that always seems to work all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And he's always slightly pissed off. There's a little bit of anger.
Yeah, there definitely was anger. I really would love to see a show about Earl Quigley.
Yeah.
Just like following him around, his daily life. That would be awesome.
Like Earl Quigley, the way that he's playing Earl Quigley is almost like Jerry from the Zeus story, the Edward Albee play. Like, it's just this oily, lonely guy who hates the world and himself, and just captivating to watch. I feel like Jack. What's his name? Jack Ryan.
Jack Riley.
Riley. He would be amazing as Jerry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I thought he and the lady who was left, what was her name? Phyllis Evans? I thought he and her were a couple, and then I realized, oh no, they weren't a couple. They were sort of individuals, and that made more sense that Earl Quigley would be single.
Oh yeah, it felt like he was like a traveling salesman. You know, like he's on the road a lot. You know, there's that bitter streak in him, and he knows more than everybody else, and because he sells stuff, and he can't say the word gun. He has to spell it.
Yeah, G-U-N.
We need to get us a G-U-N.
That's weird. Why is that?
I didn't understand the bit at all. It felt like does he think if he says the word gun, he's going to get shot?
It didn't make any sense. I'm not really sure what was going on there.
And also, I just want to point this out, too. Everyone at the Neighborhood Watch meeting, all white. They were all white.
So, yeah,
Right.
saw that
Yeah.
too. They were all white. There was no ethnicity at all in Ohio at that point in time.
It looked, you know, even when they were locked up in jail on Thanksgiving, there was more diversity.
Yeah.
There was.
Yeah. So Elise talks to Phyllis, and Phyllis, you know, because Elise and Steven, they're pacifists. They can't even imagine the idea of owning a gun. And, you know, Phyllis reveals to Elise that, well, you know, I own a gun. You know, it just helps me sleep a little bit better at night. And she's shocked by that. And so the cop leaves, again, buzzkilling everybody. Everybody leaves. And Stephen and Elise really have this discussion about whether or not they should even consider buying a gun.
Yeah. And the plot line goes off the rails.
And this is the first show I actually have to ask this question. What was the act break?
Oh, yeah. As far as,
without commercials, I couldn't tell what the act break was. Was the act break at the end of this scene when they run out and go upstairs? Or is the act break after the gunshot scene, the next scene? I couldn't tell.
Yeah. It's just really... Yeah. It's just really boring, and it just becomes an argument of what is the correct political move in getting a gun or not getting a gun.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's it. But the other thing that is weird is that the cop, when he's going out, when the meeting's breaking up, and he does this whole straw man argument of what a burglar is and how they're gonna keep coming and they're gonna keep coming and
Pesticides.
they're gonna chop your dick off, so you need to get a man gun, and it's like, what is going on here? I mean, I refuse to look up gun stats because it's ridiculous at this point.
I agree.
Obviously, if you own a gun, the chances of you harming a person you love go up exponentially, and it is so difficult, and I would say near impossible, to protect the people you love with a gun. It's insane.
Yeah.
And the odds
If you're going to argue...
I was going to say, the odds, if you own a gun of it ending up in the wrong person's hands, are much better than it ending up in the right person's hands.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Well, and that's what I
It's
love. Yeah, the opposite side of that argument is like, it's this thought process that they have of, they envision themselves saving the day. Like, I'm going to, clean shoot the person and bam, we're all safe. Where there's also like a million other possibilities that are all horrible. You sacrifice all that just for this one little envision of you being the hero and saving your family.
Yeah, and let me say this: the Keatons are not acting rationally, and I understand that. Where it's like you've been robbed, and it does take away a part of you where you feel uncomfortable, you feel not safe in your own home, you can't protect the people you love, and all this sort of stuff. Which is a perfect time to then start thinking about buying a tool to kill. Like, that's insane.
Right. We're not clearly
like, you know what?
Yeah.
We're all really headed up, and we're really having trouble sleeping at night. You know what we need is a tool of death.
Right. Maybe a security system on the home. How about that? Let's start with that.
No one mentioned that. Yeah, exactly. More patrolling the area from cops. So
it was a giant leap, and the leap was necessary because that's the issue they wanted to deal with.
Right.
Which is gun control.
Right.
Absolutely. And taking these 60s pacifists, putting something that was invasive in their way, which was the home robbery, and seeing how would they handle it. Would they handle it like most people would, maybe in the middle of America, where they would go out and get a gun, but because we learned that these people shouldn't come near a gun.
Yeah. Oh, the way they're talking about, the way they're handling it, it scares me. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And when we come back and they go to the gun store, just like we were saying, just the way they're talking about the idea of buying a gun, it's almost like they're talking about, like, should we get a tattoo or something like this? Is it going to be something I'm living with the rest of my life? And going back to your point, Paul, that's exactly why they should not be even considering this option right now.
And Stephen, he asks for the gun the way movies have teenage boys buying condoms.
Yeah!
They go, I'll have a cough syrup, a magazine, some that lighter, the rubber,
condom.
have a candy bar, and they keep on going. It's like, Stephen, it's a freaking gun. You're a grown man. Get a gun if you want to get a gun.
Yeah.
And also, I don't know if you guys were watching closely, but all of the extras in this gun store, I think, were the ones who robbed their house. Like, they're the creepiest looking extras I've ever seen. There was a guy with a mustache that was wearing all the same color denim, like a jean jacket and jeans. He had this crazy mustache. He was the guy, the one in his 30s at the roller rink when you were a kid, who was really good at roller skating. And just like the weirdest people there. It was really creepy.
But I did like the casting of the old lady. I thought that was
I did too. I thought she
that was
kind
a
of
really interesting idea.
Yeah.
Go for a sweet little old lady running the gun store or being their salesperson.
And just her lines of, you want to blow them away. Like she's like a little dirty Harry. Yeah.
That's it. I like that. I thought that was sort of clever. Casting opposite what you would think.
Totally. She was like a little librarian. She was dressed in one of Mallory's outfits.
She was.
It was a Mallory reject.
She was. We got all these leftover Little House on the Prairie outfits. We got to use them somehow.
Yeah. The other thing, and this is, I mean, now I feel like I'm sort of missing the point here, but I just want to throw this out there, is that if you're so ignorant of guns and you're so afraid of guns and you want to get one, though, why would you not then take a class or learn how to
go to a shooting range?
Exactly.
I mean, we only have 22 minutes, I get it. But, like, especially in this situation where people are afraid and want to know, like, it's just ridiculous. And it's really shitty that they made this episode because Reagan had been shot the year before. And so, you know what I mean? So it's like, I feel like they should have made this episode a little bit smarter than they did. I don't know. It just seems like it was something in the culture at the time. It was a big deal because of this event that just happened in '81. And it's just like they treated it like, you know, some bullshit thing of like, And
I agree with you totally, Paul, because when we come back in the next scene after the gunshot, and now we're in Stephen and Elise's bedroom, we open with them staring at the gun like it's something
alien, like it's
before.
Exactly. And that is what's scary. That is what's like,
because they're uncomfortable holding the gun. They'd be uncomfortable loading the gun. They'd be uncomfortable holding the gun in a real situation. So instead, we get this sort of comedic. Let's look at it like it's something really foreign to us, instead of, why don't you educate yourself a little bit and teach people that if you want to own a gun, learn how to use it. And the other thing is, it's never locked up anywhere.
Yes, that freaked me out. Yes.
But
they think it's okay because they show them exactly where it is, and trust them, never ever to go near it.
It was thanks to this episode that in 5 years they were making tons of special episodes about kids shooting each other.
God.
Those were great episodes of shows, too.
Yeah. Are we ready for a commercial break?
Yeah, let's do that. We'll be right back. Don't shoot yourself before we come back. All right, we're back. We hope you've joined us.
Yes.
Hope everybody's okay.
Yeah.
Everybody at home. So, Corey, I want to go back to, like, when they were looking at the gun. Steven says something that is also ludicrous to me. He says, here's a good idea. We'll put the gun in my drawer and the bullets in your drawer.
Right, which makes no sense because if there was actually an incident, you're now running all around the house trying to find, shouldn't the gun be loaded and locked and ready for use?
Exactly. Again, it just shows they have no education on this and have made a disastrous purchase.
Now, I'm going to assume that you guys are in the same boat. I have never owned a gun, which I'm now telling everyone that they can come and rob me. But I've never owned a gun. I never will own a gun. The only time I've ever touched a gun is as a prop in a show. And I've touched guns under the guidance of a gun wrangler who can stand next to me and tell me what I can and can't do and how I should touch it. So,
ironically, was that in a case of irony? Was that the one where you played the guy who tried to fly the plane into Nixon in Assassins?
I did use guns. Yeah, we all used guns in Assassins. And when I did that a cop pilot about 2-3 years ago, when I was a detective.
Oh yes. Yeah.
And that was the last thing they did before you go on set. The prop guy calls you over and guns you up. And they actually scream a gun up, and it's like every cop has to go to the prop place, and they go to a locked cabinet, and they take out the holster, and they put the holster and the bullets and the gun on you, so that when you look like you're a cop, you have the gun on you. But they tell you not to touch it unless it's under their guidance.
That's amazing.
And listeners, this is just for a prop gun.
Yeah, this isn't even a real gun. This is a prop gun.
This is a prop gun.
Scott, did you own guns growing up? I feel like you might have. I did.
No, I never. No, I know it's amazing. I grew up in the South where.
Georgia.
Yeah,
I know. It's freaky. No, I never. My family never owned guns. I never owned a gun. And I'm like, Corey, I never plan on owning a gun. I know plenty of people that do and are very rational about it. They go to ranges, they practice.
Yes.
And I can totally understand that. Or it's for, they like to hunt and they're very protective of that. It's just something I never see myself owning. But yeah, that's we get wrapped up in the debate about guns and never take the time to talk about it. It's like, okay, if you are going to own one, that there is a responsibility in owning
Yep.
those. It is a tool.
Mhm.
It's a very dangerous tool. So learning as much as you can about it, and it should be required, you kind of need to.
I think when we get into the whole NRA argument,
Oh, yeah.
I think a lot of it is not listened to on both sides, because I think what we're really saying is you shouldn't be able to walk into a Walmart and buy a gun. There should be some forced education.
The accessibility.
For us to drive a car, we have to take a test and read a booklet, and the state has to say you're allowed to drive a car. That's a lethal weapon as well. So if you're going to be touching a lethal weapon, there should be some education that goes with it. And we shouldn't just
licensing and things like that.
Right. We shouldn't just be able to walk into Walmart and get, a 6-pack of beer and a shotgun.
Right.
Exactly.
And so I did. My
You
dad
did?
has a. Yeah, I've been hunting. I've killed a deer. Yeah.
Whoa!
I'm
Wow!
blown away. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh, screw the episode, Paul. Tell us about this.
Oh my God! You went hunting with your dad?
I know. I'm of the three of us, I feel like I'm the most communist one, and yet I've been
you actually are
I've
the
been
most.
hunting.
Paul is now more manlier than both of us, Corey.
I know. I'm totally blown away. I would have bet the house that you'd never touched a gun.
I would too.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
that your
so
father had never touched a gun on top of that.
yeah, no, he loves hunting. He still goes. He actually, because they just moved down to South Carolina, and he goes deer hunting, but because down there's tons of snakes because it's very swampy, a lot of guys get a handgun that has a laser sight to shoot poisonous snakes while they're hunting. That's a thing that they do. It's crazy. And so, but growing up, we never owned a handgun, like the personal protection nonsense.
Right.
It was always hunting rifles and shotguns. And so it was for going hunting. We would do target practice for the purpose of going hunting. When I was 12 years old, which is how old you are before you can get the license to go hunting, I took classes on safety and stuff like that.
See, you did everything right
so,
then. That's all the right stuff, and it's the hunting stuff, which I don't
exactly. And we had a locked case that all the guns stayed in. So yeah, it was definitely a hunting thing as opposed to a personal protection, all that weird stuff.
It's the handgun that we run into trouble with in this country, not usually shotguns and rifles.
Right.
The big thing with that too, with handguns, is that most of them, especially the revolver that we see in this episode, doesn't have a safety on it. Revolvers don't have safeties. So that's why with kids, you'll have a lot of shooting death, where it's a handgun that's easy to pick up, and also it's easy to load and easy to shoot because it doesn't have a safety on it. And so that's the most dangerous of all of the guns that you could deal with. So, but yeah, the other thing, so ultimately I just got tired. I didn't like killing things anymore or whatever. But getting up early was really shitty. Like when you go deer hunting, you have to get up really early.
How early? Like 4 o'clock in the morning, like when it's still dark?
Yeah, like 4:30, and get out there into the woods, and it's cold because it's like late November, and it's just like I would go back and sleep in the truck while my dad would go hunting.
Wow.
That's what did it for you.
It really was.
Well, here's something that they also talk about in this scene. Is like they under this illusion, it's like we're just gonna put the gun away in a drawer and forget that it's there. But this seems to be the drawer that they're gonna open up on a regular basis.
Every day when he gets dressed.
Every day. They're never gonna forget about that gun's there.
Nope.
They're gonna see it every day.
They show the kids. They bring the kids into the bedroom and show them where the gun is. And then what happens? Because it's like nothing happens. Then they're like debating.
It's not all the kids though. Or was it all three of the kids? Is it all three of the kids?
It was all three. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was all three.
And then there's another scene then when Alex is at a friend's house, sleeping over at a friend's house.
Yeah, we find out he's sleeping over at a friend's house. They hear and then they're talking. Stephen can't sleep because of the gun. It's haunting him, and they hear some rustling downstairs. And go charging down. Steven does not grab the gun. Instead, he grabs a racket. But here's what scares me. And again, we're going back to Jennifer. Jennifer comes gleefully running down the stairs saying, "Did you shoot Alex?"
She'd be very happy if he shot Alex. That's very dark.
She is a sociopath.
Yes.
Because I'm going back to, like, in the first episode where she talks about, do you sometimes get mad and angry? Yeah, I feel that sometimes too. Fits of rage.
Yeah, good call.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little scary. But yeah, and so there's this big revelation. Steven kind of realizes that I didn't go grab the gun. Instead, I grabbed the racket, and I just couldn't bring myself to do it. And good thing, because it was my son coming in. Something really bad could have happened. And they just kind of realized that we are standing for we're going to go back to our beliefs, and despite the world changing.
Right. We're pacifists, and we're going to stay pacifists.
Pacifists, right.
Good for them.
Good for them. Yeah, and that kind of wraps it up. Yeah, this episode was, again, kind of a little... It seems like when they run into wanting to talk about issues, they miss a lot of good stuff that they could be doing, because they're so focused on wanting to discuss an issue, and it just kind of becomes a little one note.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really annoying because I feel like they had the opportunity to go into interesting things, and they really set themselves up well, and it's always about halfway through an episode that the air just goes out of it, and then they don't bring up interesting points to discuss. It's just like, I don't know. It's almost like conversations on Facebook pages where it's like you're arguing some political thing, and then the one person is just talking nonsense. You're like, I guess this is where the conversation's not going to go.
This is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all very wonderful.
Oh, and then there's one last about the episode where they're giving out ideas of what they should use instead of a gun, and then like the capper of the episode is Jennifer saying they should get killer bees. What does that even mean? Why is that even funny?
I mean, Jennifer is a sociopath. She's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of where the episode leads off. Another kind of very heavy-handed episode, and we learned that you don't need a handgun to feel safe.
Right.
Nope, not in Ohio.
Get a tennis racket.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guys, that I think wraps it up. Rate and review our show on iTunes. For questions and comments, email us at qualitytimewithfamilyties@gmail.com or follow us on Twitter at QTWFT for updates. You can also follow each of us on Twitter. I'm at Follow Jones.
I'm at Paul Packler.
And I'm at Corpep.
And be sure to like our Facebook page. We want to thank our host and producer, Robert Dillon at Fanboy Comics. Fanboy Comics is an online conglomerate of geek media, providing its readers with daily reviews, interviews, and podcasts that span the pop culture spectrum. Check them out at fanboycomics.net. We also like to thank Perry Adams, who beautifully performs the Family Ties theme song, Without Us. Be sure to check out Perry's website at perryadams.com. Also, we want to thank Bryant Dillon, who created our fantastic logo and edits our show. Bryant is the president and co-founder of Fanboy Comics, so be sure to follow him on Twitter at Comic Book Slayer. We also like to thank Sean Foster, Fanboy Comics graphic designer, for designing our logo. Thanks, everybody, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.